How is everybody doing today? Oops, sorry. Let's go. Got a lot of things changing for these guys here. It's going to be pretty interesting. A lot of these guys are losing a lot of this free collateral, which is very good news for us here. Get into it in a minute, but just let some people jump in. Hope everyone's having a good day. Looks like little Dougie Fresh here is being investigated once again. It's always a good way to start the day. Dougie, why you always doing illegal shit here, my friends? Win squeeze, man, I think this is going to be a good year for us. I really do. I don't think they're going to be able to contain this for this year. There's no way. Even Powell, we'll listen to Powell here in a minute. He even admits that they can't do it. It's not sustainable what the U.S. is doing right now. They're borrowing from future generations, hoping to, cover what they did for this one. And it's funny when he talks about it because he goes, we don't like to talk about fiscal policy. And it's like, of course you don't. You guys have basically destroyed it. So I wouldn't really want to talk about it very much either. So let's get into this. So let's just get started. Here we got 156 or 65. Good enough. So first thing I wanted to talk about, Hedge Roche and whatever I'm going to say this name, LLP announces investigation into Virtue Finances. So once again, Dougie Fresh is going into another lawsuit. He's currently in a couple right now, one with the FCC, one with the iron workers, and now he's going to this because he went ahead and gave out client information. So one of the things it talked about is that they told all these people that their information would be confident, but then they went ahead and gave out that information to other people. So they basically sold their information so they could go ahead and bet against these people. Conflict of interest, corruption, crime 101. Good old Dougie Fresh, keeping it up, keeping it real here. So yeah, Victoria, we'll get into yelling here in a second as well. But yeah, I saw that. Let's talk AMC here for a second, and then we'll get into everything else here. So AMC Entertainment to announce fourth quarter, their earning results here. That's going to be on Wednesday, February 28th. I'll be streaming that, just so everybody knows, but that is coming up here in a couple weeks. And one other thing with AMC, because a lot of people they're going nuts. A lot of people on Twitter are freaking out. I got people talking reverse splits. I got some people for a reverse split already. Like, what? Y'all need to calm down, dude. Like, there's literally zero reason a reverse split's gonna happen. There is no reason for a reverse split. It's not gonna happen. You guys just need to calm down. The stock is being completely oversold, and it will rebound here. We already told you guys it's going to be a struggle in Q1. Q1, the movies weren't there. They're just not there. Adam Aaron even came out. Everybody went nuts. Everybody yelled at Adam Aaron when he was just being honest with you guys. Q1 is going to be pretty slow. We're not going to hit those numbers that we need to be hitting to be profitable this quarter. It's just not going to happen. If you guys look right now, we're currently at 565 million only at the box office. So that means this first week here in February, we only did 65 million. Now, that's not good. Like, that's not good at all. And then I've been warning everybody about February here. February, I just don't see it. I just don't see that movie that's going to come and save us and be the path of recovery here for February. So they're going to try and push it down. But as you guys see, just like yesterday with the stock price, it goes down on 10% for no reason. The next day it goes right back up. They can only push it down so far because retail's buying. And when they're pushing it down so low, we're buying at such high quantities. These guys, I don't think they understand. We're not going anywhere. Nobody's going anywhere. Nobody's going to just sit there and go, you know what? I'm just going to take these losses and fuck myself. The company's in a better position than it was when I first got into play. Short interest, it's reported short interest. I want to obviously make that clear. It's reported. There's probably way fucking more. As we obviously all know, everything's been pushed over here, over there, over here, over there. But they're reporting back up to 30 million short interest. So it's getting shorted and shorted and shorted and shorted, and guess what? We're still sticking around the $4, which is exactly where good old Ken Griffin said, I'm going to pin him at 410 pretty much. We expect it to be about 410, and that's where he likes it to be around. And so I was telling you guys, it's going to be around $4, give or take, up to 450 around, and it'll go down 375. We went down to 350. We're going to stay here for a minute because they don't want us to raise capital. Now, Is AMC going to go bankrupt? Fuck no, not even close. Does AMC need to do a capital raise currently, right now? Fuck no, not even close. They can definitely wait this out, because here's the thing. AMC definitely has enough cash on hand to weather this storm. They're going to be able to take Q4 burn. They're going to be able to take Q1 burn, and they'll be just fine. They're going to be able to pay down some debt, and instead of paying it out of cash on hand, like I told you before, expect private offerings. They're going to pay down debt that way. They will do it through an offering. Now, one of the things I said we might do just to get through cash burn and ease it down to where we're still at, 850, 900 million on hand, is you could do one more capital raise, 75, 50 million. But right now with AMC, you're just in that moment where it's like, it's not going to be that great of a quarter. We need some good news. They're going to do what they do to the stock price. Just calm down. You don't need to watch it every single day. I've gone over that. We don't need a reverse split. You guys are on drugs. We just got to weather this storm through this quarter. Next quarter is going to be a better quarter. Third quarter will be even better. Fourth quarter will be better. 2025 will be amazing. It's to the point where, like I said, it's not like we're going out of business. They're not going to crush the price down to where it's not going to meet requirements and we need to do a reverse split. There's just no reason for it. People that are out there right now on Twitter, pro reverse split, you're a clown. There's no reason to do another reverse split right now. It's literally insanity. The reason it made sense before was because you were absorbing the ape shares into the common stock as well, and you didn't want to have that massive of a float. So it made sense. Now new investors can come and look over and say, hey, there's only 258 million shares in this company. It's the number one theater. It is now attractive again. Like I said, there's just no reason. I don't know why I've been seeing on Twitter people talking about reverse splits and pro reverse splits. Like, you get calm down. Like, just get to March. March will be a lot better. Obviously, you got Dune 2. You guys already see how much that's going to do. The fact it got pushed up. March could save us a lot. We could still end up at 1.92 billion, but we need February to pick up. We need to pass $1 billion right here. So I get people saying, I don't want to buy more. If you don't want to buy more, then go support your company. If you can't support your company and you can't make it to an AMC, all right, do some advertisement for them. If you have a Twitter, you can easily repost movies. Maybe buy some pop. There's things you can still do to support your company. You don't have to spend money. Just retweeting movies and having others retweet it, and millions of people seeing movies now. That enough is alone. That's you doing your part. But like I said, this Q1, Adam Aaron said Q1, it's going to be a struggle. So just relax. They're going to do whatever they can do to fuck with it. But as you guys can see, they dropped it 10% and it went right back up. So they can't really do too much right now. So, guys, just weather the storm. Calm down on the reverse split talks. Shit's crazy. Like I said, in March, we got a lot better movies. You're going to get Godzilla for, I wish we had it more than just the opening weekend. But you're going to have, Ghostbusters. You got, what's that one thing? Can't remember what it's called. Don't Say a Word thing. Jim from The Office directs it. Oh, A Quiet Place. You got Doom Part 2. So, you got a recovery month. But like I said, this February, they know it's going to be slow, and they're going to try and fuck with the price as much as they can. Like I said, maybe I'm missing a movie here that I'm just not seeing. Hopefully Bob Marley does really well. But like I said, we need some big news. The Matt Damon thing was awesome. The Ben Affleck news was awesome. Distribution news is always awesome. But we need a movie. And one of the things I hope that we do is we just go, Francis, he just put this out, a picture of his Megapolis. And I really hope that we just get this movie. I don't care if it's a smaller deal than we need, than we should take. Just get it done, dude. Just go get this signed. Show everybody else you can work with $100 million movies, not just concert movies, but real production movies, and get that foot in the door. And that is exactly what he needs to do right now. Adam Aaron needs to be focusing on this and distribution, because if we can get distribution, like I said, to take off and become a top 5 distributor, you're talking over $1 billion a year. That alone will change the entire everything with AMC. That should be his main focus, because he can make more on distribution right now than currently any other revenue stream that he has going on for him. But let's go back into everything else here now. So I told you guys the last couple months that 2024 is going to be the year of the apes. It's going to be the year where tons of things change, where they are going to lose control because they can't. Every data, every single aspect, every metric shows you they can't. Even Powell here, we'll listen to him in a minute, he admits they can't. Well, I told you first thing you're going to see in the first 2 months is going to be mass job cuts. You're going to see a ton of job cuts, and then you're going to see the start of a banking crisis. And then after that, you're going to just see banks go down, and then you're going to see some things leveling out. On top of that, we were talking about the Mag 7, and we were showing you guys how all of these companies are fucking cooking the books. We already went over NVIDIA and all of that stuff, and how they're cooking the books. And those valuations of the Mag 7 now is basically 4 other fucking countries' stock markets combined. It's ridiculous. They're literally all stuck on a hill. Well, according to Macroeconomic, 103,000 job cuts happened in January. It's a new high from basically since they've tracked job cuts. It's an all-time high for them. Just like I said, man, everything is coming into place. You can only kick the can so far because there's still only so much money. And when all the money you're making, all the money you're printing, none of it's going to solving the problem, but actually creating a bigger one, eventually you can't print enough to save it. Ryan Cohen, he was talking about, I posted this tweet, they're going to either have to pick fixing inflation or they're going to have to pick bailing out banks because you can't keep doing both. It's impossible. It's now it's all caught up to you. Everything's coming to an end. Now, one of the things that happens when things are coming to an end, and I want to show you guys just how big of a deal that this is. Just to get your attention before I even start. The OCC is proposing a new rule change. Now, if people sit there and go, well, who cares? Let's just start out what this meant for the meme mania. Let me just read this little paragraph, the bullet points, and then tell me, and then, this should pretty much catch your attention. It talks about how when things get too volatile, the OCC has a new setting that they can push, and it's called global settings. And this happens when the market is super volatile, and it lowers margin requirements, it lowers collateral requirements, and it does it to such an extent it's a massive deal. Now, just so you guys know, just listen to this line. The OCC has implemented global settings on only a few occasions. One of the times was obviously when COVID hit. But one of the other times that it happened was during the meme stock episode. On March 9th, for example, it talks about how, the S&P experienced a return of negative 7.5, but with this new control settings, instead of it returning negative, it actually returned positive. Now, if you guys look down towards at this bottom here, requirements calculated during the global control settings were at, now this is talking about the meme stocks, guys. So during the meme stocks, global, it was calculated for 84.2 billion. If they would have left it on normal settings, companies would have needed to deposit another $20 billion, which they didn't have. Requirements calculated using the global control settings were 84.2 billion, compared to the 103.2 billion had they used regular control settings. So this let them get away with 20 billion in collateral. So people that don't think that this was a big deal, if they wouldn't have been able to push this button, they would have needed to deposit 20 more billion in collateral, and guess what? They didn't have it. And you would have had a way bigger, you would have had squeezes, moasses. And I want you guys to listen to this next. So as I just showed you the numbers, 20 billion, talking about the meme stock here. I'm going to post this up here too. Here's the link, so if people want to go ahead and keep reading more into this. Look at this. Okay. So this thing uses the stands is the management system that it uses to calculate margins. Well, it talks about during the bottom of this, which I thought was very interesting, and talks about the requirements in the collateral, but it says that Clearing members' accounts with positions in marginable securities is comprised of an estimate of a 99% expected shortfall. What is a shortfall percentage? This percentage, called shortfall, represents the relative risk of not having enough internal file. Oh, hold on, sorry, wrong one. A shortfall occurs due to inadequate funds. Sorry, it's the wrong stupid thing. A shortfall occurs due to inadequate funds in comparison to financial obligations or liabilities due for payment. A shortfall refers to the short availability of funds. There can be situations or a temporary shortfall in funds due to internal or external factors, like volatility. So when there's too much volatility, they expect a 99% shortfall. Holy fuck. Basically, everyone's getting margined. And I just showed you the numbers. Because you should add another 20 billion. Well, that basically would have margin called everybody. You would have had your MOAS. That's insanity. 20 billion and 99% expected shortfall. That is fucking nuts. So, if you come up here and read, now, I want you to understand the rule because I don't know if I think this is a good rule or a bad rule. Because when you see that it's only been used, because, okay, I'll explain this in a second here. But when you see it's only been used in a couple of instances, but the problem is one of the instances it was used in was against us during the meme stock episode. Okay? Now, if you guys come over here and read what this is proposing, because a lot of people are blowing this up, and a lot of people don't understand what is happening. They think what is going on is they are changing percentages, and they're changing what they want for requirements, and that's not the case. It is, but it isn't, because what it is doing, what they're actually talking about here, is currently the OCC doesn't have rules and regulations on when they can implement the global settings. Now, as we went over, those global settings saved them $20 billion during the meme stock. It's a lot of fucking money. The OCC is the ones who can say, all right, I'm turning this on, and they basically kind of have leeway on whenever. There's no rules, there's no specific things, no guidelines for them. They just get to do it when they want. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It depends. Do you think that the OCC is made up of good regulation, and are they going to use it at proper times? Well, I just showed you they used it against you in the meme stock. So no, they're obviously, it's only been used on a few occasions. But they obviously, some of the occasions, one of the occasions was COVID. Okay, that I understand. That I will make an exemption for. Okay, fine. You needed to make it during COVID. Okay. But when the pandemic was over, why didn't you reverse the rule? Number one. Number two, the meme stock mania, when you used it on the next occasion, that's not okay to me. Why the fuck did you use it on the meme stock? What was your reasoning? What was your reasoning to say, all right, we need to bail these members out of $20 billion more in collateral, other than the fact of this? The OCC clears all of its clearing members' transactions by becoming the buyers and sellers to every trade. So basically, they're on the hook for everything. Now, on my last stream, somebody asked me, Bigums, what happens if the hedge funds run out of money? What happens if the banks go down? Well, then the clearing houses need to fucking pay us, and the brokers. It's still going past. It doesn't just go away. It gets passed. They pay us, and liquidation all the way around. Good. Fuck them. The whole system needs to go away. This entire system is a fucking gong show. Now, What this new rule's doing, and I don't want it to happen because I think that the new rule, if they get this in place, you will see this occur more, and it will protect them from any and all short squeezes. But not for the reason that they're changing the margin requirements, but what they're trying to do is say, all right, we want requirements for when this is met, you have to turn on the global settings. It's no longer up to you guys to say when and where the global settings will be turned on. We want it to where if this happens, you have to turn them on no matter what, we're saved. That is what this new ruling is talking about. It wants them to have strict guidelines, a procedure, rules, and everything written down in place. So the OCC can't just say, all right, I'm activating this now. These guidelines need to be met, and then it's automatically activated. Well, is that good or bad? Well, it can be good in situations like COVID, but it can be bad in situations like the meme stock mania, where they can go ahead and let these guys get away with $20 billion in margin collaterals. So if this gets approved, this means no matter what, the OCC is no longer in charge, and the second it's a certain amount of volatility is in the market, they are protected. It's just instantly activated. And since that's activated, look at what I showed you. Instead of them experiencing a return of negative, it went up to 18 and 19. It went to positive. Instead of them suddenly having to pay $103 billion, they only had to pay $84 billion. Now, when we sit here and say $20 billion, who cares? $20 billion divided by how many hedge funds? You could have seen how many margin calls. How many margin calls were excused because this setting got turned on? How many now here's my point to you guys. This is why I say we don't want these rules. Let's say we short them in another stock, not just AMC, not even in other short squeeze situations. Let's just say, it can consider, well, this is a volatile market now. It's a volatile situation. It's a volatile factor because there's a short squeeze situation going on. Well, because of that, at any moment, you have to turn this on any short squeeze, on any type of situation like that. It has to automatically go into effect because it meets the rules. It's no longer up to the OCC to say, well, that's a small circumstance. We're not going to implement these rules. So once again, what this rule will do. Now after I explain this one more time, I'm going to explain to you guys what to write to the SEC, because we cannot just say, I don't want this. I'm going to tell you some talking points to write down. And when they say that, okay, they have no rebuttal. Now, once again, what this rule does, during the meme stock, during COVID, the OCC has the ability inside of their software to push a button to make global settings. What that does is change margin requirements and how they're calculated. What this rule does now is if it gets passed, is it means the OCC no longer has the ability to say, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. It means it will happen every single time certain criteria is met. Whether the OCC wants it or not, it will just automatically turn it on. This can stop short squeezes. This can stop all meme stock type related events because it will meet the criteria. So we want this to say no. We want the OCC to still have full power of when and if this goes into effect. Then what we want to do is make sure the OCC knows that we let them get away with $20 billion in fucking during the meme frenzy. We want to make sure, hey, we know you let them off the hook. You said it your fucking self right here. So what we say to the SEC is we say, I vote no to this rule proposal because it does not help in any risk control. It just temporarily contains it and adds to it in the long term. It creates a greater systemic risk in the future. This also, number 3, this encourages bad behavior. This encourages more people to be living in the risk area because they know if the criteria is met, they will be saved and they will play riskier bets. So make those points in it to say, so then they go, all right, this does not do what we want. It actually, down the road, causes more and more future programs. And then you write, instead of this rule, update margin requirements to need more in case. And then bring up the fact that they have a 99% expected shortfall. Say, in your own document, you say that there's an expected 99% shortfall, which means every single one of them will be margin called. Basically, everyone's getting margin called. No one has it. So to drop that lower from 99 to like 5%, you should be required to deposit more collateral to lower this expected shortfall amount. Not let them off the hook because they have too much expected shortfall. If you guys can say that in an email, they won't know what to say. There will be no rebuttal. They will say, fuck, retail is educated. We don't know what to do. We're caught. Our hand's been in the fucking cookie jar, and we're fucked. We need global settings to save us. They need global settings to save us. Now, if you guys sit there and email them and say, we don't want them to go ahead and change the OCC settings and this, that is not what's happening. If you're going to listen to any part of this video, I cannot stress that enough. They are not changing the settings or the margin requirements. They are not changing that. Do not include that in your email, or they will look at your email and say, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. We have to say the right things. You say the OCC in the past has shown, and I know it technically goes against us for this 1 second, but you say that they have shown in the past that they have not abused this authority, even though they did during the meme stock media. But in a sense, they can say that they didn't, but we know they did. But for 1 second, for the greater good, just say they've shown without having current guidelines that they haven't been an abusive tool. So there's no reason to make that change when a more appropriate change is to get rid of the 99% expected shortfall and lower that number by demanding more collateral. So once again, this rule is changing the OCC's ability on when and where to implement global settings, and it's making it to where system-wide they want set requirements for the hedge funds and members want set requirements. So then they say, hey, I'm safe for this, and they can plan according to those requirements. Because right now it's the Wild West. They don't know if the OCC is going to save them or not. And that scares the shit out of them. This makes it so they know they're saved because they will make the settings turn on automatically. Okay, I think I've explained that very well, chat. Does everybody understand that? You guys, I've made Dave Lauer aware of this as well. We the Investor, he's going to put that out with them. They're a very active retail group. They have made changes in the market. They have worked with other companies to help sue certain people. They get meetings with the SEC. They make our voices heard, and they stand up for retail and the little guy. Granted, they're one small little group against a giant country. But any and all support we can get is amazing. And thank you. Like I said, Dave Lauer, I always appreciate everything you do for retail. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about here, because like I said, guys, you should never expect 5% shortfall is expected is like, okay, I see that. 99% expected shortfall is criminal. Now, if you guys look right here, I'm going to go ahead and post this as well. This is comments from retail, and I just want you guys to see. We are commenting. As you guys can see here, look at the list. The list is growing and growing and growing, and this is still going. It's still going. It's still going. It's still going. This is a lot of people. This is a lot of retail being heard. This is what you want to see. They think they can slip in rule changes without retail knowing. They think that they can go ahead and write some real fancy words, and we're not going to understand what the rules mean. But now every single one of you understand what this says. If you guys want to come over here and click on somebody's name, you can read what they wrote. So if you want to kind of get a template down, if you guys kind of want to get an idea on what to write, I gave you guys 4 talking points. This guy went super into it. What is this? I mean, this guy went super into it. Fucking wrote like pages, but that's great. See, the more information, facts that we bring up, this is amazing. Like I said, guys, this is amazing. Make sure you continuously comment to this. If you guys want to know how to submit comments, you can click right here. Boom, here's how to submit comments. A lot of people just email. You can send an email right here to rural-comments@sec.gov. There's online forums you can do. I mean, obviously, no one's going to send them paper ship. So the easiest thing is to email them. But right here, rule@comments. We'll go ahead and post that email for everybody. But I just wanted everybody to be aware right here. You can see we are commenting. This is before we, the investor, even gets a hold of this. We, the investor, will add a lot. But everybody, this will take you 5 minutes. 5 minutes, which could save you down the road a squeeze. 5 minutes, which could save a MOAS. Right here, this is your moment. Make your voice heard. Don't let this go through. Alrighty. So now the next rule I want everybody to look into and understand, because this is also going to hurt hedge funds greatly. One of the things we saw with banks, and one of the things that was pissing off the Feds and Powell, is what was going on with the bank lending program. These people were taking money out of it and doing arbitrage plays on other rates, other bonds. They were getting the basis points off this. So basically, they were just making free cash. Well, the SEC is set to label hedge funds now trading in the U.S. as dealers. So what this is going to do is right now, you currently had tons of hedge funds operating in this, buying these up. They weren't even registered. They didn't have to follow regulations, didn't have to follow guidelines. They're basically like family offices running rampant in this shit. Now, people that think this wasn't a big deal, this was to, if you guys remember a month ago, the Fed were talking about this is being a national matter of national security with the hedge funds getting into treasury markets, the way they were shorting them, the way they were playing arbitrage plays. Well, what they're doing is they're buying up treasuries, and then they're selling them on the future prices. So basically, buy now, sell on that, and they're making in between the basis points. It's a basis trade. These guys, pretty much the Fed looks over and they're like, fuck this. You guys can no longer do this. And I've been saying this forever. This is like treason. This is like basically fucking... And the way they're shorting it here, we'll get into this in a second, but this is the other thing they're doing. Hedge funds started shorting treasuries at the wrong time, and they were doing it at record amounts. I was showing you guys the last couple months. The amount they were shorting treasuries was going up and up and up, and somebody's going to be wrong. Either us, or it's either the Feds or the hedge funds, and the banks are going to be wrong. Somebody's going to be wrong. Well, these guys are they're taking an insanely risky bet, and by not having to register as dealers, they don't have to follow by the rules. This is getting rid of that play. This is going to get rid of the basis trade. This is going to get rid of their free money play. This is going to get rid of another area where they're not regulated. They will now be regulated. So this is actually a very good thing for us. And again, this takes away free collateral that these guys have. They're closing loopholes, and Never get upset to see that they're closing loopholes. I know everybody goes, who cares? This isn't a big deal. When these guys lose money, it's a big deal. When these guys are sitting there writing to the OCC, when these guys are sitting there crying, hey, we need special treatment. We don't have money. We're going to get margined. Everything's fucked. You guys are on the hook for it when we get margined. The only reason the OCC could maybe say, all right, is because they let too many bad trades go through that they shouldn't have, and now they're on the hook for it. So again, what we need to do is make sure this does not go through. The global settings don't get turned on, and the OCC is still responsible for all these fucking trades that they're allowing to go through. So again, this is going to take away ability for free money for these guys. But what this will do is this is going to give them the ability to be a dealer now. So what this means is they can also sell treasuries directly to who? The Fed. Now, one of the things that they can do as the Feds is the Feds now can buy treasuries directly from them. In a sense, as a little bailout. They can now buy treasuries directly from hedge funds. Is the counter to this? Well, I just wanted everybody to be aware that timing is everything. And I always say that. Timing's everything. And sometimes some things look good. Sometimes things look like, all right, I can see where your next bail-in is going to be. And I always will show you the way that they will bail these guys out as much as they can. But it's very limited. But I thought it was kind of random that the Treasury announced in May of this year it plans on doing a Treasury buyback program right in time for these hedge funds now to be able to sell directly to the Feds. Coincidence? Or, another pre-bail-in on the way. But I just wanted to, sorry, I was reading the chat there. Are we gaming tonight? Nah. What game are you thinking, man? I'll be on 2K later. Definitely be on some NBA 2K later. Sorry, I'm trying to be a little quiet because my wife is sleeping upstairs, so I'm trying not to wake her up here. But like I said, the reason that this is coming in is because these guys have been running rampant. It's been the Wild West. That's what these hedge funds fucking do. They go into something and they destroy every single thing about it. Well, they've been fucking with the treasury market. And they've been doing it unregulated. So the SEC doing this, getting a little bit of hold on this, starting to get, this should have been implemented. Of course, things that should have been implemented 30 years ago aren't, but this already should have been implemented. But again, this will take away even more collateral, even more money for these guys, which is a big deal. But one of the things, like I was saying back with this, is if the Feds, see, this is what I'm saying with the Feds now. So if they do the treasury buyback with these guys, if they do it as a bail-in, and then the Fed, let's say, buy it for the basis points, so they can do the arbitrage, but do it directly with the Fed, and the Fed doesn't care because then they're buying back some of their debt as well. I just, like I said, that's a very, very, very limited bailout for people that are concerned with that. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is everybody, I've been saying this forever. I said, people are talking, oh, we're going to get several rate cuts. I'm like, you're on some drugs, dude. And I don't know what kind of drugs you're on, but they're fucking really strong if you think we're getting 5, 6, 7 rate cuts this year, dude. Powell says he expects only 3 rate cuts versus the 6s that everybody was talking about. Well, I don't even know if we're going to get 3. I've said since the beginning I expect maybe 2 rate cuts this year, maybe only 1. We might not even get one. The economy's too fucked. The economy is way too fucked. I want you to listen here quick to Jerome Powell.
In your review, in the long run, the U.S. is on an unsustainable fiscal path. The U.S. federal government's on an unsustainable fiscal path, and that just means that the debt is growing faster than the economy.
I have the sense this worries you very much.
Over the long run, of course it does. We're borrowing from future generations. It's time for us to get back to putting a priority on fiscal sustainability, and sooner is better than later.
And that is exactly what I have been saying to you guys for the last 6, 7, 8 months. He just now finally admitted it to you. The United States is fucked. The United States is in a very, very, very bad place. When you print When you print 80% of all money in existence in a matter of 1 year, when you go from 4 trillion in January and then 22 months later have 20 trillion and have printed $16 trillion, what's coming next? Inflation. Now, when you take that $16 trillion, did you use any of that to better your economy? No. Did you use any of that to pay down your debt? No. Did you use any of that to help ease any of these bubbles that you're having in every single sector of your economy? No. So what did you end up doing? You printed $16 trillion and you funneled it offshore and you gave it to corrupt criminals that brought it offshore. Now none of that was taxed. So now you have $16 trillion you printed, got none of that back in taxes because none of it went towards any of your citizens. So you've now four times your entire monetary amount, notion of or value that you've printed. Like, what the fuck? So now, what comes next? Job cuts, credit crunch, banking crisis. You're still borrowing and spending. So now what's coming? Your treasury crisis. What's going on with your housing market? We haven't spent any pennies to solve it. As a matter of fact, everything's so fucked up. Rates need to stay higher longer. And as a matter of fact, he even said they might not be done raising them. So now, what are you going to do? Anyone that thinks that they have a chance of doing more rate cuts, well, I haven't even talked about the commercial real estate. We'll get into that in a second. So if you're the feds now, you're looking over at this like this. Everyone is broke. Okay, I'm just going to think of this logically. Because the feds cannot do this wrong. Because with how the economy and everything is, they might have got, as they say, we got inflation under control. But it's to the point where when it's not under control, it's not just going to go up a little bit. It's going to fucking skyrocket rapidly and fast and fucking hard. So you cannot cut rates. You can't. Right now, you have too many people with nothing. So why would you cut rates and make it easier for those people to have access to money? You wouldn't. When you look around your entire economy, you look over and you say, all right, corporations are going under. Office buildings are going under. Our commercial real estate is collapsing. These people are selling this stuff for pennies on the dollar. Banks are taking hits. Money market funds rate percentages are going up way too high, which means more and more are going to leave the banking system. That means what? More stress on the banks. So now you're going to say, well, now these banks, so what you want to do is lower rates and say to some of these banks, all right, go ahead now and start giving out super risky fucking debt. I know tons of people are already super in default. I know everybody can't afford anything. But what I want you to do is make credit a little more available to them. Now, you're not gonna, because you're just making another bubble. And what he already said in that exact thing. We are fucked up so bad. We're borrowing from our kids. And we're borrowing from our kids' kids. And we're borrowing from their kids. What happens when they grow up? This is why I keep... People that are parents and are listening to my stream right now, What is your son and what is my newborn son? What is he going to grow up? Or daughter what are they going to live in? What kind of a world are they going to live in? Your debt's going to be over 40 trillion. You're going to be paying over 2 trillion in interest rate. Powell himself said we are spending more than we're making. The Federal Reserve is at 150 billion loss. They're operating at 150 billion loss and no signs of slowing down. They need to pay that money back to the Treasury. It's not like they just sit there suddenly, the feds just get to go, well, fuck it. Nope. That means they have 150 billion IOU right now to the fucking Treasury. And it's going to go higher and higher and higher. And until they can suddenly get back to positive, they're going to have to start paying that down and down and down and down. So the Fed themselves are hurting. They're fucked. When you look around, there is no way you can, with just what I've said, when you have a bubble in every sector, how can you look over and go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut rates and give people even more access to cash they can't afford. You cannot do that. You can't. And now the feds go, well, if we make up more bailout programs, we're just fucking getting even worse off and we're borrowing even more and we're going to be operating at even a higher loss. And God forbid any of these banks can't pay back these loans. Now you're absorbing even more of a loss as the feds. Now you see why you're getting to the point where you're Jerome Powell, you're the Federal Reserve, and you're looking over going, I'm bailing you out, and all that's happening is now I'm losing $150 fucking billion in the process. My assets, my number one asset is mortgage-backed securities, and I'm buying them at a fucking high rate to bail out the banks, and I'm losing even more money. And now you're the feds, and you're looking over going, and then I made you the federal lending program, and you fucking took advantage of that by fucking borrowing that and then using that money to buy my treasuries and fuck me again. Which is why we now need you all to register as dealers. The Federal Reserve's finally looking over and going, hey, I'm helping you guys. And in return, you're fucking me in the ass. Just like you're fucking all them. Well, I can only get fucked in the ass so long before I say, I can't keep bailing you out. I have to choose inflation. Because if they bail out the banks one more time, inflation won't be under control. You're going to have to pick one or the other. And eventually you're going to look over and say, these guys are just fucking me in the ass and not learning their lesson. And now I'm taking it. And now I owe this money. And now I'm feeling their bad gambles. And now my assets over here are worth less because I bailed them out on that asset and that aspect too. And now you're looking over going, why would I lower rates and give those guys more access to more funds to fuck me even harder? You're not gonna. No rates are coming. No cuts are coming. They can't. The United States is fucked right now. Even he's getting to the point where he goes, dude, we got to address this shit. The system relies on the banks to have control. The United States population is evolving. They're learning. They're growing. They're moving out of banks. They don't need them. They're pointless. They lose you money while stealing your money, while committing crimes like sex trafficking, human trafficking, cartel, terrorism, drugs, money laundering. The list goes on and on. People are going, I can make 5.8% in a money market fund or I can sit here at 0.5 and lose. Fucking money to inflation. Biggest outflow in bank deposits in January since the Silicon Valley bank collapse. $168 billion left the banking system in 1 month. And I told you guys, they projected 1.5 plus will leave the banking system this year and move to money market funds. 1.5 trillion more deposits. That's a lot of collateral. That's a lot of revenue because banks, they need your money to create revenue for themselves. That's a lot of revenue relieving these banks that are already hurting, which means they already cannot afford to raise rates because they're going to be making less, which means they're even more fucked. Now, when you look over at the FOMC meeting, do you guys remember the FOMC meeting? They came out after the meeting and they revised their statement. What was the number one thing I said? Holy fuck, if this isn't telling, I don't know what is. They erased the banking system is sound. They erased it. They fucking crossed it out because it's not. Then fucking the other day, Janet Yellen talks about the commercial real estate is going to fuck banks. And we don't know what to do about it. We don't. We have no idea what the fuck we're going to do. It's our main focus. It's one of our main focuses right now. We don't know what to do. Because there's fucking 1.5 trillion come and renew. And there's not that much money out there. We don't even know where the fuck we're going to come up with that much money. And it's going to come down. It's going to fuck a ton of small banks. I know it is. We've been saying this for a fucking long time. They cannot stop this. They can't. They cannot stop this. What is going to happen with the commercial real estate is unstoppable. It is too high of a number. It makes China looks like child's play. It makes it look like child's fucking play. Evergrande doesn't even fucking come close to this much. The United States real estate, when this thing starts going down and down over the next year and a half, they're fucked. They're completely fucking smashed. Look at their exposure. It's at an all-time high. Look at their fucking exposure to commercial real estate right now. No fucking big deal. No big deal. Came out 2 days ago. Wall Street is worried about another regional banking crisis. In my last stream, I just showed you Powell himself talked about another regional banking crisis. I'm going to pop this up here quick just so people can read this as well in the chat. Boom. Well, the last crisis was about interest rate. This one revolves around the 20 trillion commercial real estate. 20 trillion. U.S. banks hold about 2.7 trillion in commercial real estate loans. The majority of that, or about 80%, is held by smaller and regional banks. Ones that are not classified as too big to fail. By 2027, 2.2 trillion in commercial real estate will come due. We're showing you they are currently taking a 50 to 60 and in some cases 80% discount on that 2.2 trillion number. So, how can banks absorb a trillion? How can they absorb 1 trillion in losses? You can't. Oh, did we overvalue these buildings by way too much? Oh, did we crush the economy to dust to where no citizen can open up a job or open up a new company, which means office buildings there's no one in them? Oh, did our plan backfire when we did COVID and we completely did, hey, everybody, you can work from home. And now all these other companies just said, why would I go back to office buildings? Oh, there's no reason to. So you're going to suddenly see tons and tons and tons of these banks, and it's already happening. You're now watching the first bank of your banking crisis. Guess which one it is? New York Community Bancorp. Bancorp took losses from these. $552 million to be exact. Bancorp is just the first of these ones to fall. What else is happening with Bancorp? They're now getting sued by their investors. Oops. You're going to start seeing a lot of these banks, after they go under, get sued by their investors. 2024 is going to be a very, very interesting year. Very interesting year. It's going to get harder and harder for these banks to deal with these losses, to deal with this. And guess what? The bigger banks are getting fucked themselves, so they can't go lend. And this is exactly what I told you guys I wanted to see. Before you win, before we win, before you get what you deserve, before you get what you have fucking earned, we need banks to die. We need creditors to fuck off, and we need them to dry up. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're seeing. And you need these banks to not bail out the hedge funds. And then you need shit like this, where we come in and say, hey, OCC, we see you're trying to bail them out because banks are not going to be able to. When banks are no longer going to be able to bail them out, the regulators are going to try. And retail's going to be there to stop them every fucking step of the way. And they will crash, and this will collapse, and we will win. And when we win, I have every single one of these fuckers' names. I have crimes they've committed, and I have donation. I have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of these fuckers' names. And I'll make sure when we win and I have money and we all have money, we will go. I'm not done there. I'm going to go after them. Then we'll make sure that they go away. Fuck these guys. Fuck these guys. So, once again, this is to a level. These are two numbers that are too great for anyone to help. This is number too great for even the Federal Reserve to say, hey, we'll help you out with this. No, you won't. You can't. You can't. Why? Because some of these banks, it's 80% of their entire bank, their entire everything relies on these things that lost all their value. Oops. You know those bonds? They all have to hold them to fucking maturity just so they can get their par value back on their fucking bonds. Which means what? They can't use them as collateral. They're fucking worthless. And you're hoping just to recover par value on them. Stick it up your ass, banks. And this is my point. I know it's been years. I've been in it. I've been here every day fucking telling you what they're doing. Been telling you every day how they kicking the can down the road. And I'm telling you when they even just drop a brand new can down and kick that one and then leave the old one back there. The can that they dropped last is too big to just leave behind. This can is the size of a house. When I try to kick it, it doesn't move anywhere anymore. It doesn't move anymore, guys. You don't just get to punt this down the road. This fucker has a due date, and it's coming. And in 2025, there's over 500 and it was like 1.2 trillion. 2.7 trillion due in 2027. It's too big of a can to kick. You're not stopping it. Too many people are leaving deposits, and the more that leave the deposits, the bigger that can grows. I'm telling you, if you're in a regional bank of any sorts, get the fuck out now. Get the fuck out. You're going to get fucked. This year, at some point, you will be fucked. The government's plan right now, the government's plan to help with this is to try and come up with like a $50 billion bill to convert these into real estate houses. But guys, guess what? If they have a $50 billion bill and $580 billion is fucking due to by the end of this year, $1.2 trillion is due by next year, and I only have a $580 billion reserve, little fucking Band-Aid, who cares? So you're going to save a couple banks? You're not saving them all. You're not even saving half of them. The can is too big to kick. A record of Americans can't afford rent. This came out fucking today. A new Harvard study university found that half of U.S. renters are paying nearly 1/3 of their income on rent. Means it's not affordable for them. It's not. They're living with no funds. They're living with pretty much probably high credit. I can probably tell you how most of these guys are living. Credit card debt, panicking. Parents are helping them get by to this. They're probably all 1 month behind where their phones are ringing. Hey, you're a month. Well, you better get this month. You better get this month. Apartments are going to go down. More big buildings. Credit card delinquencies spike. They jumped up to 8.5%, and they're rapidly growing. Now, it was at 14% in 2008. So 8.5, we still have a ways to go. But that is, as you can see, skyrocketing. The percentage is rapidly going up. More people are running out of savings, and it's not getting better. I showed you as well, more and more layoffs have happened now. You have a record number of layoffs. In January, told you you're going to have one in January. You're going to have a really close. It won't be a record, but it'll be basically right behind it in February, and you'll have it also in March. And at that point, the banking crisis will go off, which means you will have too many broke people, which means you will not be cutting rates because you'll have too many people with not enough, and you're not going to want to now go give them access to capital. Because the banks are already stressed out enough to where they're not going to go, say, give out bad loans to people that can't afford them. So, once again, expect 2 to 1 to 0 rate cuts this year. Now you got credit cards delinquent. You have fucking people moving out of their house. Now, one of the things I want to talk about quick is China, because there are so many things going on in China right now. And I would pray to God that regulators in the United States would maybe take note of this, because what is happening, we need to, like I said, this is what the United States should be doing. Now, China targets marginal loan short selling to help stabilize stocks. Now, this was on the 5th. They said that they're going to go after people who are shorting. They're going after naked short selling a lot harder. They're going to be more cracked down on margin collateral, margin calls, requirements, things of that nature. They talk about naked short selling and market fraud and how it has zero leeway going forward, and anyone who does it will now end up in prison. One of the things I wanted to show you guys really quick, China sentences after they announced that they will be sending people to prison and they will lose everything. They're no longer fucking around. China sentences former bank president to life in prison for bribery, insider trading. They also say if he doesn't stay out of trouble in prison, he will be assigned to death. He has to pay $50 million in fines. For taking bribes, Titan received a death sentence with a 2-year reprieve, lifelong deprivation of political rights, and confiscation of all personal property. Additionally, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for abuse of power. And this is the type of things that we need to be doing. When you are doing stuff at the level these guys are, when you're doing crimes in the hundreds of millions to the billions of dollars, that's worse than any bank robbery ever. You should go away for life. And if you cause any problems, we'll send you to a state where there's fucking execution. You should have been executed anyways. You've destroyed millions of people's lives. Destroyed millions of people's lives. And you smiled when you did it. And then bragged about it. As far as my eyes, there's not a penalty far enough that will ever justify your fucking actions, especially when you do it again and again and again and again and again. And like you said, how many people that you did that stuff to, maybe there even if one person committed suicide over something like that. As far as my eyes, you murdered them, and then you smiled when you did it. Go fuck yourself. I said, I have no tolerance for any of these fucking pieces of shit in life. They know what the fuck they're doing. On top of that, what else did China do? China yesterday, they fired their head of their regulator. They basically said, Gary, since you can't fucking get this under control, we'll get somebody in there that well. And they fired him and they replaced him. China has removed its top security regulator following a year-long stock market decline that has become an increasingly sensitive subject for Beijing officials in the recent days. So, like I said, they did this to help, maintain confidence in their market, because China's realizing everybody else, just like nobody has fucking confidence in anyone's market. Why would you? China's market's also getting hit with Evergrande, all these other. They're in a lot of problem. They're in a lot of trouble. Problem is the United States is just as much. We're just better at hiding it for the current moment with media. But the reason I'm showing this is this type of thing is that, if the United States cared, if they cared about you, the people, the citizens, if they wanted to fix this, they would start to do this just like China's doing right now. What else did China do? China bans stock borrowing from institutional investors for short selling purposes and encourages mergers and acquisitions to boost market value of companies. They ban stock borrowing from institutional investors for short selling purposes. But I thought shorting's good for the economy, according to United States regulators. Shorting's not good or bad. YouTube is censoring this chat room. I was kind of wondering, man, nobody's typing anything. I'm just gonna say, chat, can you see this? Because I haven't seen. I've done a lot of streams, but I've never seen my chat this quiet. I haven't seen anybody type anything in a while. So, hopefully y'all can... hopefully my stream's not messing up here, but whatever. But anyways, back to this stuff. So like I said, the first thing they do, they ban short selling or borrowing stocks from institutional investors. That's a huge thing. Why hasn't Gary done that? Why didn't he do any of that shit after all this stuff? Obviously, there's so much fraud. They don't care. They don't give a fuck. What the United States... See, here's the difference. China knows they're fucked, so they're just like, all right, we're going to say it out in the open. Everybody, they know that confidence in the market is gone. Confidence in the United States stock market now is gone. It's non-existent. There is none. You'll have the people that do TA. You'll have the people that day trade and say it's the greatest thing. And, oh, if you know what you're doing, you can make money. And yeah, of course. If you know all the shit you can do, of course, there's always ways to make money doing everything. But in the end of the fucking day, your average person is now waking up. It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. They're now realizing the other ways that they can do this, manipulate this. They're waking up to spoofing, everything. Confidence is going down in the stock market. And I actually showed that there was a lot of outflow in the stock market. I lost my stupid tab. I was looking for it in my history. I have so many fucking things open all the time. But a lot of actual money has been leaving the United States stock market. And like I said, eventually here, they're trying to implement rules and do these things to where, all right, well, we're going to do the auction house and do this to try and bring back some confidence in the market. But it's like, I don't think they'll ever get it back. I think most people are now at that point where they're holding they've picked their stance on whatever stock they're doing. Yeah, you're going to have people that are going to go in and do day trading, but a lot of people now are just buying the same one thing to do a stand instead of, the way that they want you to do is, follow this idiot, follow Kramer, do this day trade, go in here. The way you make money in the stock market, it's the same thing. Just like Warren Buffett always says. Just like, look at the fucking S&P, all these indexes forever, since the history of the market. Put it in there, relax, hold, and stop expecting everything within 1 fucking second. If you're doing things like that, don't expect everything to be a 5,000% gain. If you're playing options, if you're doing day trading, it's okay to take a 50, 100%, 200% gain and be happy with it. But most people don't do that. Don't go into the stock market looking for the big play. Every play only. That is the only way you do it. That's, I guess, all I'm trying to say. Because a lot of people I've been seeing lately now are posting like Bull Rio as an example. It's just constantly chase this squeeze to this squeeze to this squeeze to this squeeze. This is this, this is this, this is this. And then it's the same shit. Well, they have high fucking borrow percentage. And then the next day it drops to 1% fee because, as we can see, the problem now is, you guys remember a little bit ago when they had that, we got this new fucking program out there, and the second retail talks about anything on any social media platform, we all know, and then everyone can fucking either do this and accordingly bet that. Like I said, the market is not meant for your average investor. So I'm getting at, basically. China's top hedge fund, Shanghai Banyan, whatever the fuck, investment management center, that manages $1.4 billion, sold stocks at a loss after realizing it must lose an arm for survival. Cut off an arm to survive another day. And that's exactly what you're going to be seeing all of these short sellers do very, very soon. Because again, what are they all on? They're all stuck on the same fucking hill. They're all on the Meg 7. So that Meg 7, the only reason they're okay still is the value of that Meg 7, for some fucking miracle reason, just keeps going up. I mean, eventually, the fact that they're cooking the books has to come out to everyone. I mean, how many people shared the fact that NVIDIA is and all of these companies are going up to they're going up to startup programs and saying, hey, I'm going to give you $400 million. You're going to take this $400 million and you're going to go buy my NVIDIA chips with it. And now you're that much farther ahead. And now you're going to say to everybody, hey, we'll reevaluate the company at this percent. So now NVIDIA is not going to lose all this money because they have now a company valued at that. And then they'll take in all these other investors. Now they can slowly get that money back, slowly get it back from all the other investors. And guess what? There you go. They cooked the fucking books because that company bought fucking NVIDIA's cards. But they're leaving out the fact NVIDIA gave it to that company to buy NVIDIA's cards. You see what I'm saying? NVIDIA's buying their own shit and then calling it revenue. I've never in my life seen that. I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna give you $400 million. You're gonna give me $400 million. And I'm gonna count it as revenue this quarter. But then I'm gonna do supply chain financing, okay? I'm going to do supply chain financing in my contract, so it's not a liability that quarter. It's a $400 million gain that quarter. Now, one of the other things I thought here, U.S. banks see massive deposit flights, like we went over. They lost $168 billion in 1 week. This is the biggest weekly drop since the Silicon Valley Bank crisis. Again, guys, people are figuring out banks are fucking pointless and they don't serve the role that they once did. The Federal Reserve is now finally figuring out they don't serve that role that they once fucking did, and we're still bailing them out by the trillions. We need to let some of this crash now. We need to let some of this collapse, and like he said, eventually we need to start tackling this now because it's going to get too big for future generations. We're already borrowing from those future generations, but one of the things I wanted to show you on this also, after 2 weeks of outflow, money market funds saw $42 billion in inflows last week, so $168 billion left the bank. $42 billion of that went into money market funds. And now for the first time ever, money market funds have over $6 trillion in assets. This is exactly where I told everybody in the last year. If you guys looked over the last year, look at the spike. Trillions and trillions have been leaving over the last year, going into money market funds. Money market funds breached $6 trillion for the first time. I just wanted to show you guys this one more time. But like I said, look at the spikes. Look at how fast people are pouring into money market funds. On 01/25, we were at, on 01/25/23, you're at 4.8. 01/17/24, you're already over 6. That's a 1.2 trillion in 1 year added to money market funds. That's a fuck ton of money. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up and show you guys with this, as we're seeing all of these people are leaving, all of these deposits are going and going and going and going. Well, what that also does is that's going to make it, a lot of people are going to get more nervous in the banking sector because they're going to see all these people leaving. Well, if you look at the bigger banks, for JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, if you look at these three banks, just for use these as an example, it talks about how much, I'm going to post this up. It talks about, if you want to look at this in the chat, it talks about all the banks, their deposits, each one, how much percentages aren't insured, things of that nature. Well, what this talks about is most of these regional banks, they're not insured. A ton of them aren't insured. So you could see a ton of bank runs on that. Well, it also talks about the breakdown for the three mega banks. 60% of JP Morgan Chase's deposits are not insured. 60%. That's what I'm saying. If JP Morgan loses a lot, if you get those people to realize they're a criminal enterprise, their money's not safe there, and those 60% do what they did to Silicon Valley Bank and say, I got to go. My money's not safe here. It's not insured, and I don't know if this company is safe. And they all leave, JP Morgan will go under. You could have a bank run on JP Morgan. JP Morgan has, out of the three biggest mega banks, they have the biggest amount of uninsured deposits. Again, that is over 60%. You have Wells Fargo at 51% of its deposits are uninsured. 49% are at Bank of America, which tells you most of the people that bank with these are institutional investors or richer people. So let's look over here some more. Like we were saying here, once you have all of these job cuts coming, or these job cuts coming, you're going to start to see tons and tons and tons of more bank failures. Well, UBS is one I've been talking about for a while. UBS warns of significant extra cuts. Now, they were talking about cutting before. Well, now they just found out they're going to need to cut a lot more than they originally planned. They're actually going to try and cut an additional $3 billion. No big deal. They have to cut $3 billion more than they planned. And I told you UBS will go down, and UBS will go down. UBS, like I said here, this reveals that it was targeting $13 billion of cost savings that was tied up from Credit Suisse. It will involve thousands of more job cuts, 16,000 more roles that went from banks. Like I said, guys, you're going to start to see a collapse this year. This year will be the year of the collapses for banks, that they just can't stop. Moody has downgraded. You also saw that Moody downgraded the New York Community Bank, Bancorp. Bancorp also has $4 to $6 billion more that they are going to need to repay. They're in a bad situation. This is in a very bad situation. If you're in this bank, I highly suggest you be very careful, or most preferably get the fuck out of there. But this will be your first bank to start this off. This will be your first Silicon Valley, and then we'll just start to see some more going down from there. Again, this Zach Bank that I just went over is being sued also right now by its current stockholders. Good luck. You're going to be seeing this quite a bit this year. Julius Baer, CEO, exits bank over losses on private loans to bankrupt property firm Cigna. Again, tons and tons and tons of these banks have given out tons and tons of private loans that you're going to see. And you're going to see more and more of these hits, more of these banks going down, more of these CEOs retiring, more restructuring. Banks are getting fucked. Give it a month. Our favorite bank of them all, Deutsche Bank. They're going to be going down here soon too. They just went ahead and announced that they're cutting another 3,500 jobs, and they need to cut $2 billion again in costs. Now, people are sitting there going, well, if you're noticing a trend here, these banks are cutting $3 billion here, $3 billion there, and then a month later, oh, we lost more deposits. We need to cut another $3 billion more. We need to cut more billions and billions. Well, guess what? You can't keep cutting forever. You're cutting and more are leaving, and you're cutting and more are leaving, and you're shutting down branches. Like I said, now more are leaving because they don't have even access to you. Weekly biggest outflow since April on bank deposits. Once again, $168 billion left. Massive national bank closes many branches in in New York. Talking about Community Bank, Citizen Bank, Capital One Bank, Wells Fargo, Key Bank, and Bank of America, and JP Morgan are all closing banks in downtown New York there. It also talks about how Bank of America has closed 108 branches in 2023, and they plan on cutting 55 more in 2024. And if you saw their last report, there's projected to have a bigger loss next quarter, so the cuts could actually go up higher, and you could actually see more than 55 go down. But when you see 163 branches go down, that's a pretty big fucking number. And now, like I told you guys last week, I just wanted you guys to be aware of this one more time. Again, they put in that new rule that will make it harder for banks to merge. But the number one reason why this is important is it makes banks that are already too big to fail, like JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America. And this is why I'm telling you, this is why this right here also makes it where they cannot fix this, is those types of banks are disqualified from bank mergers, period. They're too big. So in other words, you're not going to have another instance where JP Morgan can come and take the loss and just absorb it. Another smaller bank's going to have to come. Well, as you guys are seeing left and right, when these smaller to medium banks are coming in and taking these guys on, what's happening to them? They're getting fucked. They're getting completely destroyed. They can't afford to take these massive losses. And with this new rule, guess what? That's all that's going to be able to happen. So you're going to have hot potato going back and forth on these assets, and they're going to be so toxic. But the problem is is they're going to have no choice but to keep passing them back and forth or letting banks collapse that absorb them left and right. And you're not going to, because of this new rule, you're never going to have that big bank that can absorb it to stop it and to contain that area, that specific event. It will keep fluctuating over and over until it can't be stopped. But since it goes from one bank to the next bank and crushes the next bank, you're getting more toxic and more toxic and more toxic every time the potato is passed. Breaking more regional banks down. If you guys look at regional bank stocks across the board, I just showed this one just because I was going to pull up all the stocks. I forgot to. Sorry. But if you just go right now, go Google regional bank stocks, boom. You can pull them up right now, pull up your apps, go to whatever app you're on, go to your broker, look at regional bank stocks. They're all down. They're all plummeting. It's going to start to happen. Like I said, guys, there's nothing these guys can do to stop this banking crisis this year. I don't care what the Fed programs they try and do. It's just too big of a number. It's too big of a number. JP Morgan is not going to go under. I guess you haven't seen the size of their derivatives position and who they're supporting, because JP Morgan supports more hedge funds than anybody. And if you have margin calls this year and if more hedge funds go under, JP Morgan's going to take the biggest loss of them all. Yeah, fuck YouTube, man. I mean, I don't know why it's doing this shit with my chat. Does anyone have any questions at all, though? Is it safe to short banks? I mean, it's not really safe to short anything. In the end of the day, there's always risk involved in shorting, so I can't say, yeah, go short bank stocks and you'll be good to go. No problems asked. But there are chances that a lot of these regional bank stocks continue to drop. Yes, I play NBA 2K, my friend. I play on PS5. If you're on PS5, you can add me. Alrighty. No, I already went over all of that, my friend. So if you missed the very beginning of this video and you didn't hear about this OCC rule, I highly suggest you go back and just watch it. It's like 10-15 minutes, but this rule is literally a game changer. This rule will stop MOAS. This rule alone will make it so that it's impossible to ever get a MOAS, ever. It will instantly kick in the global triggers. The global triggers will instantly change the margin requirement amounts, and they already did this once during the meme stock. They call it episode. They call it the so-called meme stock episode on March 9th. Now, during that time, just so you guys know, they only had 84.2 billion for margin requirements because that setting was turned on. If that setting was not turned on, they would have owed 103.2 billion, which is another 20 billion, and you would have seen margin calls. The reason you didn't get margin calls was because the OCC implemented global settings during the meme stock frenzy. So what this new rule that they're proposing, once again, they're now proposing that the OCC no longer has the ability to decide when and where to implement the settings. The new rule they want is the settings will automatically be triggered by parameters that they set. So pretty much the hedge funds want it to be so if there's ever volatility of this magnitude, we don't get margin called. So again, it's not them trying to change specific numbers or specific margin numbers. It's them trying to change when they activate global settings, which reduces margin requirements. They want it to where the OCC no longer has say because it's only been implemented a couple times in history. They want it to be implemented all the time, and they want to be able to decide when it gets implemented. So again, make sure you say no to these rules. Make sure you write to the SEC and make sure that this does not get passed. But thank you guys for listening here. I'm going to get going. I have to go do some stuff here. I'm going to make a video on this when I get home. It'll only be like 10-15 minutes long. So if you didn't get the full rundown on this, I'm going to make a 10-minute video on this. I want to make sure everybody fully understands this. They are not changing the parameters on how margins are changed. They're changing on when they can implement global settings, which reduces margin requirements when enabled. Do I have a Discord group? Yes, I have Discord. Let me pull it up here. My Discord here. If you guys want to join my Discord, obviously, if you're a troll, I will just ban you. Just if you want to come in here and learn, it is always free for everybody. There is my Discord invite for anybody who's watching. Again, I have mods in there. If you're just going to come in there to troll, don't even bother, dude. You'll just be banned in a minute. Just move on with your day. I'll make the video today. It'll only take me 5-10 minutes to make this video. But like I said, I just want to make sure everybody fully understands this before they write their emails. Because if we write emails and we sound like we don't know what the fuck we're talking about, that does not help our case. Those emails, those comments will be thrown right out. So again, this does not change the numbers. It changes when and how the global settings are implemented. But, all right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it, everybody. I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll put that video out here in a couple hours. Have a good one.